Chinese cyber attacks against Taiwan doubled between 2023 and 2024, with the country now seeing 2.4 million attacks every day. Partisan rancor could lead to recall revenge. Parties in Taiwan trade threats to oust each other's politicians. Protests on the streets of South Korea's capital as the impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol refuses to surrender to investigators. Plus, we head to Taitung for a local twist on a religious dance form that's aiming for special heritage status. Stay tuned. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Leslie Liao. China is amping up its attempts to hack into Taiwan's government systems, according to a recent report from Taiwan's Security Bureau. Reese Ayers has more on what Beijing is targeting and why.
Cyber attacks on Taiwanese institutions have doubled in the last year, with the vast majority of those attacks coming from China. That's according to a report by Taiwan's intelligence agency. The National Security Bureau says the average number of attacks on Taiwanese systems increased twofold, from 1.2 million to 2.4 million attacks per day from 2023 to 2024. The agency has said they're able to fend off most of those attacks, but that the sheer volume of activity just demonstrates the increasingly severe nature of China's hacking activities. The report says that most attacks, around 80%, target government networks, and that there's been a steep rise in attacks on the telecommunications sector, financial institutions, transport networks, and even defense supply chains, as well as private businesses. The report also said that hacking methods are becoming increasingly sophisticated, using a range of techniques from DOS attacks to phishing email campaigns and Trojan and backdoor viruses. So, what is China's goal here? The government networks targeted by these attacks facilitate communication channels between different agencies and host online services where people pay taxes or store national health or labor insurance data. All of that could prove valuable information for China, which, remember, claims Taiwan and has said it will take it by any means necessary. Access to confidential information and networks could help China take Taiwan offline and disrupt infrastructure across the country should they ever decide to make a move. Taking down transport networks, financial services, energy grids would all make an attack or a blockade of Taiwan much easier and could even send Taiwan into a state of panic. But Taiwan won't take all of this lying down. Part of President Lai Ching-de's Civil Defense Committee plan is to improve Taiwan's national technological resilience and also to raise public awareness about the threats from China in regards to stealing Taiwan's most sensitive information. Justin Wu, John Su, and Reese Ayers in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Partisan tension is threatening to boil over in the legislature, with the ruling Democratic Progressive Party and the main opposition party, the Kuomintang, threatening to mass recall campaigns against each other. Amid the bitterness, one lawmaker has even suggested dissolving the whole chamber. John Van Triest has more.
A new year has started with the legislature in an uproar. Though the partisan divide has always been bitter, rancor over controversial recent amendments now has the two biggest parties threatening each other with a political showdown. Over the weekend, Democratic Progressive Party whip Ke Jianming threw down the gauntlet with a call to wipe out much of the rival Kuomintang's caucus through a nationwide mass recall campaign.
我们要双罢。第一个要罢免曾副院长，第二个要罢免国民党41个区域立委。
That would mean the ousting of every Kuomintang district lawmaker elected last year, decimating the caucus from the biggest in the chamber to a tiny 13-seat minority. Ke has justified the move by saying the Kuomintang has pushed through bills that are either unconstitutional or put Taiwan's interests at risk. Though there aren't yet any concrete plans to carry out this threat, the Kuomintang already says it accepts the challenge and may retaliate with a recall campaign of its own.
面对民进党来势汹汹的大罢免潮，我们一定会正面迎战，在一些区域里面也会针对民进党的立委都有可能成为罢免的对象。
But the rhetoric hasn't stopped there. One of the most divisive of the recent bills, one that would set new rules on the Constitutional Court's ability to hear or rule on cases, is up for a revote, and the Kuomintang is likely to get it passed a second time. To prevent this, the Democratic Progressive Party's whip wants a referendum on dissolving the whole chamber. Legal experts say that's not actually possible under current laws.
所以呢，如果要用公投方式的解散国会，基本上来讲，唯一一个可能性就是修宪。
But even if all of it, from threats of recall campaigns to threats to dissolve the chamber, is just political bluster, it is an escalation. And just days after DPP President Lai Ching-te said he wanted to bridge the political divide between the parties. If this latest escalation is any indicator, it could be another turbulent year ahead for Taiwanese politics in 2025. Klein Wang and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus News.
South Korean prosecutors have indicted the country's former defense minister over his involvement in President Yoon Suk-yeol's declaration of martial law last month. It comes as the deadline looms for an arrest warrant against Yoon, who remains holed up in his Seoul residence. Rosie Greninger reports.
Thousands of protesters braved the cold on the streets of South Korean capital Seoul, one side rallying for and the other against embattled President Yoon Suk-yeol. The leader was suspended and impeached for his short-lived declaration of martial law just over a month ago that plunged the country into political chaos. But he can only be removed from office by the Constitutional Court that is still deliberating whether to uphold the impeachment. Yoon is now under investigation, with a warrant out for his arrest for refusing to appear before investigators. Many here want him to answer for his actions.
이렇게 부당한 사회에 너무 순응하지 않고 저기서에서 단대 집회를 하고 있거든요. 꼭 저희 나라가 올바른 민주주의로 갈 수 있도록 모두가 힘을 맞췄으면 좋겠습니다.
그래서 계속 나올 것 같아요, 앞으로도. 대통령이 탄핵될 때까지도 나올 거고.
But Yoon's supporters have also come out in force, calling for his impeachment to be declared invalid, arguing it could threaten the country's security.
지금 우리 대한민국은 중공 뿌락지에 의해서 뿌락지들과 거기에 종속된 인간들과 우리는 싸움을 하고 있습니다. 우리는 곧 다시 회복될 것입니다.
우리 국민들이 완전히 대통령을 지지하게 됐습니다.
As demonstrations continue, Yoon is holed up in the presidential residence, facing criminal charges for insurrection and abuse of power. Anti-corruption investigators were blocked by the presidential guard when they attempted to detain Yoon a few days earlier. And with less than 24 hours until Yoon's arrest warrant expires, the head of the security service has reaffirmed he has no intention of complying with the warrant.
지금 윤석열 대통령은 비록 탄핵소추안이 국회에서 가결된 상태이지만 주권자인 국민의 손으로 뽑은 현직 대통령이 분명하고 법이 정한 대로 그에 상응한 경호를 받고 있습니다.
According to local media, anti-corruption authorities are preparing to attempt to arrest Yoon once again, also considering applying to extend the warrant's validity. As the next political moves are being mulled over, protesters here insist on remaining on the streets. Both sides adamant they are fighting for South Korea's democracy. Dolphine Chen and Rosie Greninger for TaiwanPlus.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in South Korea seeking stability in the two countries' alliance amid Seoul's political crisis. Blinken is not scheduled to meet impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol, meeting instead with acting President Choi Sang-mok. He will also meet with Foreign Minister Cho Tae-yol. Seoul is a key security ally for Washington, with thousands of U.S. troops stationed in South Korea. Blinken is expected to stay clear of local partisan politics during his trip as protesters continue to rally against Yoon.
제가 개인적으로는 불안하다 생각해서 미국 쪽에서도 일단은 와서 좀 상황을 보려고 하는 게 아닐까라고 그냥 짐작만 하고 있는 겁니다.
After South Korea, Blinken will travel to Japan and France. It's likely his last trip as the U.S.'s top diplomat, with President-elect Donald Trump set to take office in 2 weeks. North Korea appears to have fired a missile into the sea off its east coast. South Korea's military confirmed the launch, with Japan's Coast Guard saying it could be a ballistic missile. The launch coincides with political uncertainty in South Korea and a visit by U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken. While North Korea has been accelerating its missile development in recent years, this is its first test in about 2 months. Former U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says China's leader Xi Jinping does not have the power to decide the future of Asia or even of Taiwan.
Free nations, especially those in this area, in the Indo-Pacific, must send an unambiguous message to Beijing that you are free, that Taiwan is free, that Taiwan is independent, and it's going to stay that way. Nothing's going to change it.
Pompeo was the top U.S. diplomat during Donald Trump's first term as president and is making his 4th trip to Taiwan. He called on the incoming Trump administration to advocate for Taiwan's international participation in academic, business, and intergovernmental organizations. Chip-making giant TSMC's stock price has soared to a new high. Shares in the company reached around $35 on the TAIEX, Taiwan's benchmark index, on Monday. That follows strong gains in TSMC's shares on the New York Stock Exchange late last week. The new high comes on the heels of booming demand for semiconductor chips driven by artificial intelligence. The market for TSMC's 3 and 5 nanometer chips is especially hot. The company plans to start manufacturing its new cutting-edge 2 nanometer chips this year. The southeast of Taiwan is home to a special style of religious performance that locals hope will soon be granted special heritage status. Once again, John Van Trieste takes a look.
The religious dance bajiajiang is an art form that's been evolving in Taiwan for centuries. And here in the southeastern county of Taitung, there's a local twist on the tradition, now 67 years old, whose performers are hoping will get special recognition. The tight symbolic formations and elaborate costumes are much the same as those you can see elsewhere, but here the typical 8 performers, representing heavenly generals, are increased to 13. Those who know the local Zhongho Temple's troupe see notable differences in style, too.
跟脸谱始终是保持着我们从东港过来的时候的一些传承不曾改变。
But while it's appreciated as a staple of temple events, bajiajiang as a whole has an image problem, a stereotype that troops attract rough characters like delinquents and gangsters. And so this local variant is eager to stand apart. It's applying to the county government for inclusion on the local intangible heritage list.
它蛮特别的是，它是以石家将这种画脸着装出居的一个过程当中做一个登录。
University students from the area are helping spread the word with a series of promotional merchandise. The hope is to get this art form formally recognized by the end of the year, joining it to a list of other religious rituals that make this corner of Taiwan culturally distinct. Chris Ma and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Coming up after the break, life in plastic. It's fantastic. We visit a Taiwanese artist transforming the iconic Barbie doll.
At Connected, we believe in the power of dialogue. It's not just about the headlines, it's about finding common ground. Join the conversation.
Connected with Divya Gopalan on TaiwanPlus.
I'm Ed Moon in Taiwan's Jinmen Islands, and you're watching TaiwanPlus News, the voice of freedom in Asia.
经历过人生的话，你发现说我们大部分都是爱美。
我自己少遇见一朵花，我可能就不是这个样子。
开始思考什么叫做一个本土性，
大声的唱出来说我是台湾人。
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. India's foreign ministry has lodged a diplomatic protest after China created 2 new counties in the disputed Aksai Chin region. One of these counties overlaps with the territory India claims as part of its Ladakh region. For more on what this means for India-China relations, our reporter Adil Brar spoke to Jabin Jacob of Shiv Nadar University in Noida, India.
China has announced 2 new counties, and these counties overlap with the Aksai Chin region that India claims. What's the significance of this announcement?
It's part of what I would think is this lawfare approach the Chinese have employed for a long time of using legal means to solidify administrative and political control over disputed territory. If you recall, the Chinese have been engaged in a similar exercise, in a somewhat similar exercise in Arunachal Pradesh, where they've been renaming places well inside Indian jurisdiction, Indian territory, since 2017.
Could you explain the history of the Aksai Chin region and its significance to India-China relations?
Aksai Chin has always been claimed by India. This is a claim that has come down to us as a result of the Republic of India taking over from the British Raj. Now, the Chinese have obviously never accepted this claim. And in fact, one of the sort of reasons why the India-China boundary dispute post-Indian independence and communist liberation in China sort of scales up is the discovery by the Indian side, by an Indian diplomat in China, in fact, of a road being built through Aksai Chin, which has always been shown as part of Indian territory in our maps and so on. The road was being built between Xinjiang and Tibet, basically to connect to Tibet. And so this road was discovered, and the Indian side made a representation to the Chinese, and the Chinese simply said, well, old maps and so on, and that they were yet to update their maps. But essentially, this area became a site of one of the sectors of conflict in 1962.
Will this development complicate the ongoing talks between India and China to reduce the military tensions at their mutual border?
So here, I think there's an explicit action in territory that India clearly claims as part of the India-China boundary dispute. So what this means, coming so soon after the recent last round, or so-called last round of the disengagement process, as well as the special representatives meetings in Beijing, is that, well, the Chinese don't particularly take Indian claims seriously or Indian reactions seriously, that they feel that they, can do things without much of a pushback from the Indian side. So I don't think it speaks well of the state of India-China relations. It doesn't speak well of the degree of trust that exists in India-China relations.
That was Jabin Jacob, a professor at Shiv Nadar University, discussing the state of India-China relations. Over 60 million people are bundling up as a winter storm dumps snow across the central U.S. 7 states have already declared states of emergency, with Kansas and Missouri facing the worst of the storm. Some areas may see the heaviest snowfall in decades. A polar vortex has brought ultra-cold air from the Arctic. Studies show these are becoming more common due to climate change. Many schools have closed and thousands of flights are delayed or canceled. These days, between fast fashion and AI, most industries are trending toward automation. But in Japan, luxury denim makers are doing the opposite. Sonia Schlesinger explores how traditional weaving and dyeing by hand are not only surviving, but thriving in a changing fashion world.
Traditional looms and indigo dyes, once used to make kimonos in old Edo Japan. Now they're behind a modern and thriving industry here, luxury denim.
もう日本全国に数を数えるぐらいしかないです。だからここの台も増やそうと思っても台が出てこないんで、機械が出てこないんで増やせれないんでもう。
These denim makers know that in an industry dominated by fast fashion, automated machinery and synthetic dyes are king. But they say that natural dyes and hand weaving last longer and have aesthetic advantages too.
化学染料の場合はその青色でもこう深みがない青色いうんですかね。
触ってみても地合いがすごく滑らかで、ジーンズにした場合は結構長持ちします。
Denim makers believe that their jeans quality can not only outlast the years that wear denim down, but also the technological changes that every industry is facing. Some believe it could even help.
AI に置き換えられない仕事だと思ってるんで、5年、10年、20年後には全く違う構造になってると思うんですよね。職人こそ豊かな生活だったり、やっぱりそれ絶対的に未来においては価値があって貴重なものになると思うので。
Customers from around the world are lining up to partake. Japanese denim has become a coveted luxury abroad, with companies making up to 40% of their sales from overseas. The most expensive pairs of jeans sell for up to $1,300 in the US.
I think the raw denim is quite nice as well, especially seeing all the samples with all the fades. Yeah, I think I'm looking for raw denim jeans now.
Offering lifetime repair warranties for fixes to the material, these denim makers hope that the industry will continue to thrive for their customers' sake. Because a well-worn pair of jeans, they say, can trace the paths of their customers' lives for decades. Patrick Chen and Sonia Schlesinger for TaiwanPlus.
A collector in Taiwan is giving the classic Barbie doll a modern makeover. Sandy Chi met him to learn more about his craft and love of the iconic children's toy.
After years of collecting and modifying, Barbie enthusiast Taitung is improving on a classic design.
我喜欢芭比娃娃的就是它的美，它可以展现各种风情，比如说可爱、性感妖娆，然后知性优雅。
Taitung's Barbie collection, which contains over 1,000 dolls from different eras, started when his mother bought him his first one as a child.
我的第一只娃娃就是这个，那它是1997年的金色交响曲。
Since then, he's been collecting them from all over the world. Over the years, Taitung's gained a reputation as a Barbie stylist and has made a cottage industry out of giving customers dolls glamorous makeovers, improving their makeup, jewelry, and hairstyles. He says the trick is not overdoing it.
我觉得每个娃娃它都有它原始的特色在，那我们就保留精华，去其糟粕，把它坏的东西改掉就好了，不用到全部重画。我觉得改到它面目全非不是我的本意。
From his studio in Geelong in northern Taiwan, he handles around 30 cases a month from customers all over the world. It's a lot trickier than he makes it look.
其实给芭比改造的过程最困难的，我觉得还是化妆部分。对，因为比较小，所以就要更仔细。因为差之毫厘失之千里，你一笔画错了，它就错了。
Like every artist, Taitung can point to his favorite work, one he thinks reflects the best of the medium, his collection and interests.
我目前其实最喜欢的有2个年代的造型哦。第一个年代是90年代，那其实大家可以看到，它是一个非常完美的大波浪的造型哦。那怎么说？目前最喜欢做呢？是因为我觉得重发型是最能够体现就是芭比她的女人味的，跟也能够最好展现我的技术的啊。那还有一种是50、60年代的风格，就是上世纪50年代的贵妇路线哦。
With confidence and pride in his work, Taitung is determined to push the boundaries of his craft. He dreams of one day holding his own exhibition to share his passion for Barbies and inspire others with his unique artistic talent.
芭比娃娃其实这么多年以来，它教会了我，就是要懂得欣赏每个人的美，然后要懂得欣赏每一件事物它独特的地方跟它可取的地方。
For Taitung, the dolls have become more than just a source of income or a collection. They hold a deeper, personal meaning shaped by years of dedication and creativity. Fu Huahong and Sandy Chi for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally today, check out these highlights from the red carpet at the 2025 Golden Globe Awards. I'm Leslie Liao. Take care, and I'll see you next time.